She said I remind her of her father. I was like, cool. She loved her father. Didn't see that it was in the derogatory sense. Hence, I stepped back to observe from behind the fence. Before I showed defense, I had to pick her brain. Told her, all right, baby, tell me a story, so I could see how we two were viewed the same. She proceeded to tell me of instances that proved to be traumatic. I heard with an attentive ear stories that were problematic. It made me better understand how her quick quips to me were always so automatic, and how from beef she never shied away and was always ready for the static. He would spend her childhood causing havoc every time his lips touched that gin. Still, I find it hard to find my relation to him. He was a cheater, physical abuser, alcoholic shapeshifter, late night after work. I don't do any of those things, the thoughts throughout the conversation that began to lurk. But then the third eye began to see the relation, how she connected A to Z. And as confusing and complicated it actually is, that she took father and equated it with me. I began to pick apart the subtle details that she didn't expand on. He was selfish and always made her feel like she was doing something wrong. Made her feel less than. Until 17 years of age, and she took all that she could stand. Went from her first Josue to Mike like an alphabetical order. Got pregnant to raise her own family. Didn't matter if she had a son or daughter. Made plans to encourage her son's aspirations because her parents could care less. As he tried basketball, baseball, karate, soccer, art, whatever he wanted to prove he was the best. Art was his forte, as the apple does not fall far from the tree. But as we examine the fruits of behavior passed down this great tree, let's still see how possibly the father's tree affected her and was relatable to me. Daddy Dearest was a belligerent drunk. That also used to be a trait of mine. Daddy Dearest was old school in his belief system regardless of how unkind. Okay. I'm following. We're like two twins in this bitch. Okay. Daddy Dearest was a cheater. Nope. I don't need to satisfy a temporary itch. Daddy Dearest did not own his own faults or acknowledge that they even existed. Now the plot thickens because that is not a trait of mine, rather hers, and she got it twisted. Daddy Dearest beat, punched, almost stabbed his little girl. So in doing that, he skewed her view of how she saw men in this confusing world. I believe that every time she got into a future altercation with the men in her life, it was still Daddy's little girl barking at dear old dad and not husband disagreeing with his wife. Post-traumatic stress can do that. It sometimes can blank you out and make moves as if you have no choice to defend yourself because it's not really what is at hand at the moment. Rather, you fall victim to a time when you had no voice. The damage was prevalent every time communication was at an all-time low. Listening to respond is how she reaped what she sowed. Taking things out of context time and time again. To the man she married could no longer see in her eyes any resemblance of his one-time friend. Own nothing, blame everything. Seemed to be the motto, just like dear old dad's speech. I did not hit you girls, and if your mother didn't leave me, life would be as sweet as a peach. You see how that works? Too bad in her subconscious that thought never lurks. Actually, offense would be the only feeling if she was to ever read these words. Then comes defense, because of course everything I just said will be seen as totally absurd. You used what I told you against me once again, you piece of shit fool. I confided in you and you threw it back in my face. That is so uncool. Yes, I guess that could be one perspective concerning this storyline. Or I could have loved you enough to try to figure out where your PTSD stems from and put it in rhyme. Or I could have just left with no words and left you to stack more and more subconscious hate. Or you could just attach a maybe to your rhetoric before your inevitable fate. Either with me or with someone else, it's going to be something you have to face either now or at a later date. Daddy Dearest is like 60-something years old and still hasn't figured it out. So I guess the question is, how long are you going to take to wait to do it? Just like, do it!